Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, and it's AEW Dynamite Day. It's CM Punk AEW Dynamite debut day, so it's a very exciting time to talk about AEW, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about some AEW news stories, some big AEW news stories today. We can see the big story is Adam Cole. Now, this is kind of a WWE news story and an AEW story. The news we have is more surrounding Adam Cole and his future with WWE, but I think it lends in quite a lot to AEW, so I've decided to put it in today's AEW news video as opposed to the WWE news video because I think it concerns AEW more, to be honest with you. Now, Adam Cole's WWE contract expires this coming Friday. This is according to a report by Fightful Select, which of course is their Patreon service, so be sure to check that out and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed recently, I don't know why, because they're just dropping exclusive after exclusive, scoop after scoop, so now's the time to subscribe to Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp and the team are doing an incredible job over there. Now, it was reported previously that Cole was confirmed to be done with NXT after Sunday's NXT TakeOver 36 loss to Kyle O'Reilly. Now, Wrestling Inc. was first to exclusively report earlier this month that Cole's contract expired in July, but he had signed an extension that would expire this month after SummerSlam weekend. Now, the thing that was up for debate and was a bit confusing, it wasn't clear at what point after SummerSlam weekend that his contract expired. We now know that it's actually this coming Friday, so 2 days' time, that his contract with WWE expires. Now, at the point that it was first announced that he had signed this extension, it wasn't clear if Cole was headed to Raw or SmackDown, as WWE officials wanted him for the main roster, and pitches reportedly had been made in case he chose to re-sign with the company. But we have some new information in the last 24 hours or so, because in an update, PW Insider is reporting that sources have told them that Adam Cole is considered to be done with the company unless he signs a new deal, which I laugh at that report because of course he's done with the company unless he signs a new deal. That's kind of the point of having the contract in the first place, right? I'm totally done with the company. Unless I re-sign, then I'm not done with the company. Well, obviously. Isn't that how things work? But the sources, according to PW Insider, I guess the way they're trying to phrase that is the feeling is that Adam Cole is done. Now, Adam Cole has been signed with WWE since mid-August of 2017. He's worked for the NXT brand for his entire run. He's a former NXT champion, the longest reigning NXT champion in company history, the inaugural NXT North American champion, NXT Tag Team champion, the second ever NXT Triple Crown champion. He won the 2018 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. He's won a ton of awards with NXT as well, and as I mentioned, his contract is set to expire on Friday. As of right now, again, the feeling was, other reports, I think by Fightful Select, have said that there is expected to be at least a couple more offers by WWE this week to Adam Cole, saying basically stay, we'll put you on Raw, we'll put you on SmackDown. The kind of confusing thing is, and I think a lot of people are thinking, is Adam Cole going to show up on Dynamite tonight, or is he going to show up on Rampage on Friday? The answer to both those questions is no. The reason why the answer to both those questions is no is because obviously AEW is taping Dynamite tonight. It's live on TNT. But also after Dynamite, they're taping the 1 hour episode of Rampage for Friday. This coming week, Rampage is going to be taped. So it's impossible for Adam Cole to actually appear on AEW television tonight because technically he is still under contract to WWE. It's just the case of his contract expires on Friday. So don't expect to see Adam Cole tonight on Dynamite. Don't expect to see Adam Cole on Rampage on Friday because that's going to be taped tonight. There is no legal way, unless somehow he's managed to get himself a 2-day early release, which I don't think he has. I don't think WWE is trying to actively make AEW that much better, even though they're releasing a load of talent recently that is helping out AEW. It isn't going to happen. So Adam Cole isn't going to appear on AEW programming this week. As far as next week, if it's next week, then Adam Cole could show up on Dynamite. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Obviously, legally, it can happen. The reason I say I don't think it would make a ton of sense is because at that point, next week is the week of All Out, isn't it, of course? So I guess the big thing would be, could he show up at All Out on Sunday, September 5th? Absolutely. Absolutely he could. That is a very realistic possibility, considering the way the timelines link up. That is absolutely a possibility that Adam Cole could show up at All Out on September 5th. Will he? Won't he? I'm leaning in at this point. I don't know if he's going to show up at All Out. Considering it's a pay-per-view, it's a big event, lots of people will be watching. Chicago, red hot crowd, CM Punk's debut as well. I think that's a real possibility, a true possibility. And if you ask me to predict where I think Adam Cole is going to end up next, My feeling at this point is if Adam Cole does not show up on Friday Night SmackDown this coming Friday, he's gone. He's gone from the WWE. He's not re-signing with them. I have felt previously in the last couple of weeks that it's quite 50-50. The reason I felt it's quite 50-50 is because Adam Cole, for whatever it's worth, does have, I don't want to say a loyalty to WWE. He certainly had a loyalty to NXT, and he had a loyalty to Triple H and Shawn Michaels. But the reason I lean more and more to the AEW side of things now when it comes to Adam Cole's future is because he's done with NXT. That match against Kyle O'Reilly was a way to write him out of NXT storylines and off NXT television. Unless at this point WWE completely blows him out of the water with some kind of contractual offer that is so financially just unbelievable that he'd be foolish to turn it down, I think he goes to AEW. Kenny Omega's been teasing this on his Instagram, I think, posting the picture of Adam Cole when he was killed off on being the Elite, and I think the Young Bucks have posted one of their Twitter bios which makes reference to a seance. Obviously, a seance refers to talking to the dead, maybe reviving the dead, bringing the dead back to life. That dead person being Adam Cole in the storylines of being the Elite. So they're hinting that Adam Cole could be next. Britt Baker's been liking tweets on social media talking about an end of an era for NXT. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's leaving WWE, just meant he's leaving NXT. But Britt Baker's also been liking other things about Adam Cole's future. So, I'm leaning more into this point that Adam Cole is obviously done with NXT, but he's probably done with WWE as well. Either way, we're not going to find out anything this week. We're probably going to find it out next week. I think if he does sign with AEW, I think he shows up at All Out. Obviously, there's a possibility we don't have to wait until then. Not because AEW would announce it, but we're living in a reality where CM Punk made his return to pro wrestling last week, and it was one of the worst kept secrets in pro wrestling history. And we know realistically that Bryan Danielson has signed with AEW as well. We just don't know when he's going to make his debut. That's been rumored for the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. So there's a possibility, of course, between now and All Out, it could leak out that Adam Cole has signed with AEW or something like that too. At this point, like I said, I really do think, and I'm leaning more into Adam Cole signing with AEW. Now, again, anything can and will happen, and there is still time for WWE to make him a great offer. He's still under contract for the next 48 hours. We have SmackDown on Friday. Just because he didn't show up on Raw on Monday doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't going to show up on SmackDown on Friday. If I was him, and again, I don't know, what his intentions are. If I was him, this would be my school of thought right now. Previously, I would have been like, yeah, why wouldn't I? I signed with WWE to be on Raw and SmackDown eventually. That's why I signed the contract in the first place. The reason why I would be so hesitant to move to the main roster at this point, and it's main roster or AEW, because he's not going back to NXT. The reason I would be so hesitant is I would look at Monday Night Raw, and I would see someone like Karrion Kross. I would see someone like Keith Lee, prior to his illness, how he was being booked, and other NXT talents on Raw and SmackDown. I would look at them and I would say to myself, what makes me any different from them? And if anything, people like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, in the eyes of the WWE management, arguably have more going for them because they're bigger guys. They're like the profile physically of what they're looking for. And I would look at them and I would say, what makes me any different from them? How can I trust my career? And it's very rare that you have points of leverage in life or in your career in anything. And I would look at that and say, I just can't trust this system. I can't trust this system. And I would look at what is actively happening to NXT, a brand that I helped build. I mentioned that Adam Cole's been under WWE contract since 2017. We're talking 4 years. He's been signed to a WWE deal. 4 years. And that whole 4-year period has been put everything into his blood, sweat, his tears. All of his effort has been to building that NXT brand into what it is today, or what it was a few months ago, shall we say, to the point where it went from a 1-hour tape show on the WWE Network into a 2-hour live show that was on USA Network. And that first year that it was on USA, whilst it might not have beaten AEW, that entire show was built around Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era. And I would look at what it's become now, NXT, and I would say to myself, what it wasn't worth anything. Why did I do it? Because you've just ripped it apart. I put everything into building this brand. And basically, you've just gone, no, we don't like it. We're going back to developmental. We're going back to the way it was before. So 4 years for nothing. And at the same time that you've got Vince McMahon trying to wine and dine me backstage recently on an episode of SmackDown, saying we've got big plans for you, we want to keep you, we've got plans for you on the main roster, all this kind of stuff. At the same time that's happening, you're firing one of my closest friends in Bobby Fish. I'd be like, well, I can't believe a word you're telling me right now. How do I know you're not lying to my face? And again, I've seen all of this stuff happen within WWE over the course of the last 18 months with all of these people fired. Why am I any different? I'm not. So unless he got a no-cut clause in his contract, which maybe he did ask for, I don't know, I would be very skeptical of anything WWE said to me at this point. And I think that's probably where he's lying. I think he's probably realizing to himself, man, that move to Raw or SmackDown is so uncertain. I know what I'm getting myself in for when it comes to AEW. AEW, it's not as if I'm going to a company that's not being successful right now. They're the in company. They've got a ton of momentum going from. Are they as profitable and making as much money in WWE? Of course they're not. But at the same time, you've just had CM Punk sign with them. You know that they've got these big shows coming up where it's All Out or it's a Grand Slam edition of Dynamite, and you know you can feel it. You can feel the momentum right now. And you can say to yourself, man, I can have matches against CM Punk, against Daniel Bryan. Plus, I know all of these guys, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page. I know these guys. I trust these guys. Cody Rhodes, all of these people. I know what I'm getting myself in for. I trust them. And that's probably what it comes down to at this point, trust. There is ultimately probably a lack of trust between him and WWE and him and AEW. And that's probably what it comes down to, I think. So, again, my feeling is that he'll go to AEW. I don't know that to be certain. I think the biggest telling point will be Friday. Friday, if he shows up on SmackDown, obviously he's staying. If he doesn't, the writing's on the wall when it comes to Adam Cole going to AEW. That's my feeling on it. You can let me know yours in the comments section below. Let's switch gears, talk about Rampage, talk about CM Punk once again, because Booker T does his podcast, and man, Booker T has some takes, doesn't he? Booker T has some pretty incredible takes, and I just don't know. I don't know what he sees sometimes, and he's spoken about CM Punk's AEW debut last week in Chicago in the United Center for Rampage, and he wasn't impressed. This is what Booker T said. CM Punk is back, man, and I got a chance to witness the return of CM Punk. I really did. I don't know. You guys out there are big AEW fans. You guys agree to disagree with me. But me, I'm always telling it like it is. You know that. And I'm going to tell you like it is on this one right there as well. I want all of the listeners, I need you guys to challenge me on this one. I'm begging you to challenge me on what I'm talking about. It takes his time to get there. CM Punk came back and he had 10 full television minutes to go out there and make his point as far as CM Punk being back. He had the perfect crowd to be able to go out there and really, I'm talking about have a party up in the United Center. But CM Punk came back and took his moment and chose to talk about the WWE. That right there was a total miss as far as I'm concerned. He struck out. I can only imagine if The Rock had that same 21,000 in Miami, Florida, The Rock would have talked about every landmark in Miami and that everybody in Miami frequented. He would have those fans going crazy with excitement, but CM Punk chose to talk about the WWE, and that 9 minutes went back so slow when it could have been a party going on in the United Center. That is crazy. Honestly, that is crazy. That is crazy. One, his analogy isn't even the same. If he's saying The Rock, he would have come out in Miami and he would have talked about Miami and everything he frequented. Well, The Rock wasn't released by WWE, and The Rock wasn't fired on his wedding day. The Rock didn't walk out of WWE and then not wrestle for 7 years. Yes, The Rock had a big absence, but he came back to WWE, and he didn't leave acrimoniously from WWE either. It's a completely different scenario. And what do you expect? I'm not one for bashing WWE. I'm not one for when these former WWE stars come out on AEW or any company for what that was. When they used to do it in TNA or wherever, it used to bother me because nobody cares. But in reality, CM Punk's story is about his departure from WWE. You can't ignore that. Everyone knows about CM Punk's departure from WWE. He walked out. Then he was suspended. Then nobody talked to him. Then they fired him on his wedding day. How does he not address that? How does he just come out and just be like, oh yeah, that didn't happen? Of course he's going to address it. And let's be honest here. He spoke about it. You talk about a 10-minute promo. He spoke about it, what? A minute? A couple of minutes, if that. He spoke about the company that got him sick in the first place, which objectively is kind of true. Look at him towards the end of that last run there. He looked like he was on death's door. That's one thing. And two, he mentioned that it's not pro wrestling in WWE. WWE will say that themselves. He wasn't saying anything that wasn't true. So Booker T saying that it was a miss or he struck out because he spoke about the WWE. Come on. Seriously? Come on, Booker T. You know, this is a guy that worked with Punk. He worked with Punk on FS1, on WWE Backstage. It's just sometimes when Booker T, and like I said, he's got some takes. Man, he's got some takes. And sometimes I just think when he is talking with these kind of things, sometimes I just think to myself, like, I feel like he's only doing this for the podcast. You know, sometimes when people say these opinions on social media or on podcasts or in interviews, you sort of go, I know you don't believe that. I know you don't believe that. So, I don't know. I just thought it was crazy. And maybe the fact I'm talking about it and I'm talking about his podcast now is exactly what Booker T wants. But it was just nuts. It's just crazy. Obviously, I mentioned Dynamite was tonight. We have some matches announced for Dynamite, and you can see the one on the screen there, that trios match. We'll get into that in a second because, oh my goodness. So on AEW Dark, 2 trios matches were added to tonight's Dynamite in Milwaukee. One is the team of Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, and Darby Allin facing the team of Cesar Bononi, Ryan Nemeth, and JD Drake of the Wingmen. The other trios match will feature QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto, and Aaron Solo of the Factory go up against Austin, Billy, and Colton Gunn of the Gun Club. Paul White will be a special guest commentator for the match. I mean, honestly, I know QT Marshall is like good friends of Cody Rhodes, but at this point, does he have like incriminating evidence on Tony Khan? You know, don't get me wrong. I'm sure QT Marshall was a great guy. He comes across like a nice guy, I guess, in interviews. And I know he does a lot of great work at the Nightmare Factory, training people. How on earth is this match making it onto Dynamite? Seriously. This is a match that is like tailor-made for Dark or Dark Elevation. We talk about how big the AEW roster is, and it is legitimately a problem for AEW. But you've got people that are struggling to get on the show, or that show is so fast-paced because they're trying to get everyone on the show. And sometimes they'll have promos or vignettes, and they don't have to be in action every week. But this, no disrespect to anyone in this match, this is not a Dynamite match. And I don't know what it is with QT Marshall, where he's just on Dynamite every week. Every week, whether he's got now his faction, the Factory, and he turns on Cody Rhodes, and he has the match against Cody Rhodes, which he loses every single time. Now he's feuding with Paul White. Now he's going to be attacking Tony Schiavone's son, and now he's going to be apologizing to Tony Schiavone, and then he's going to be pouring a drink on Schiavone's head in the big show. Paul White's going to come out, Tall Paul, shout out to Fightful there. All that kind of stuff is going to happen, and that's fine. If that happens on Dark or Dark Elevation, I understand Paul White having his debut match. I'm still not thrilled about that being QT Marshall anyway on All Out, because again, those kind of spots on a show like that are gold dust. I mean, not Dustin Rhodes, but you know what I mean? Literal gold dust. So why we're getting more QT Marshall, it feels like that is so not a Dynamite match. So not a Dynamite match at all. It's just very, very strange. Very strange. But look, I just don't know. I saw that, I went, who on earth is going to watch this? Now, also announced for Dynamite is a Chris Jericho segment where he will address his future, which, of course, is worthy of Dynamite. Jericho lost to MJF in his final labor and said after the match he has some soul-searching to do. Of course, the big thing on this show is that CM Punk will be appearing. It's CM Punk's Dynamite debut, and it's kind of like at this point, because you look at the card overall, it's not a strong Dynamite card at all. You've got Punk appearing, which obviously is the headline. You've got Jericho doing a segment, which should be great. The Moxley, Kingston, Darby Allin match is what it is, but it's a squash. It's a squash match. The Factory match, which, who cares? Malachi Black versus Brock Anderson. Again, it's a squash match. Malachi Black will destroy him, but it'll be a fun presentation. You've got Jamie Hayter versus Red Velvet, which, okay, you have to give me a reason to care about the AEW Women's Division because they haven't. The booking of it still isn't up to par for me. And then Matt Hardy versus Orange Cassidy. You've got the Tag Team Title Eliminator Tournament, Lucha Brothers versus Varsity Blondes, which would be fine. But in terms of recent Dynamite cards, it is really not the strongest. And it's kind of a case of, I guess, AEW feeling that people are going to tune in to watch CM Punk anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it does feel a weaker card, certainly a weaker card. And I don't know, obviously, what they got planned for Rampage. They're taping it after, so maybe they'll load that up. But yeah, that match, when I saw it, the Factory versus the Gun Club, I was like, whoa. that's on Dynamite? Oh my goodness. They got to have something big planned for it, because otherwise, I don't have a clue. Really, I don't have a clue what that is all about. It must be said. Let's switch gears to All Out. You can see we've got some All Out graphics going now as well, which knows that it's closing in. The first competitor for the Women's Casino Battle Royale has been announced for the upcoming All Out pay-per-view. AEW President Tony Khan mentioned that the match would be happening during an interview, but AEW officially announced the match on Tuesday. Nyla Rose has been announced as the first entrant into the match. Now, the winner of the 21-woman Casino Battle Royale will receive a future title shot at the AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker. As far as who do I think's winning that one, obviously it's very difficult not knowing who's in there. I would think we know that Ruby Soho is signing with AEW. I think she'll be the surprise entrant. And I think the two likely winners of the match, one will be Ruby Soho, because that's the way of winning a match and just getting a title opportunity without having to go up the rankings. Myself, personally, I would rather the winner be Thunder Rosa, because I like everyone else, want to see that Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker rematch. The only thing I would say is that logic would suggest that whoever wins this match will get their title opportunity relatively quickly. The good thing is that there isn't a huge amount of time between All Out and obviously Full Gear in November. It's only, 6 weeks, in a couple of months? They could realistically stretch that out. They could stretch out that Thunder Rosa wins this match and she says, but I want to have that match at Full Gear in November. And then they do the match between Ruby Soho and Britt Baker on a TV special edition of Dynamite. But I don't know. It depends on who else is announced. But I would hope Thunder Rosa or Ruby Soho is the person to win that match. AEW is going to be making their Orlando debut in October with a special Saturday Night Dynamite episode. AEW announced yesterday that Saturday Night Dynamite will be held on Saturday, October 23 from the Edition Financial Arena in Orlando. Tickets go on sale Friday, August 27 via Ticketmaster. Now, Dynamite is airing on Saturday night that week due to the Philadelphia Flyers versus Boston Bruins NHL hockey game airing on TNT the Wednesday before. The NHL season begins the week of October 12. TNT's inaugural NHL coverage will begin Wednesday, October 13, with a doubleheader as the New York Rangers take on the Washington Capitals and the Chicago Blackhawks take on the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, again, this is why TNT and Warner Media was so happy that Punk showed up, is because you're struggling to find a bigger Blackhawks fan, right, in pro wrestling, so they'll obviously have some tie in there. Now, AEW has not announced a Dynamite taping for October 13 as of recording right now. Now, obviously, AEW was preempted several times earlier this year due to the NBA coverage on TNT. Dynamite and Rampage are going to be moving to TBS in 2022 because of these preemptions from the NBA and now the NHL in the future, which is a good move. And if anything, there's far more history with pro wrestling on TBS than on TNT. Of course, you had Nitro on TNT, but you had 605 Live for TBS for years and years and years and years, and then obviously Thunder after as well. So at least those preemptions end, right? Finally, CM Punk's return has led to a lot of discussion about AJ Lee's possible return to pro wrestling as well. Now, AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker appeared at a Planet Comic-Con event soon after Punk's debut on Friday on Rampage. Now, Baker was asked about the possibility of Punk's wife, AJ Lee, joining AEW's women's division. This is what Baker said, quote, "I was a big AJ Lee fan. One of the first moves I asked my trainer to teach me when I was training was her finisher, the Black Widow. So that would be really cool. Again, it's giving the fans what they want. I think the fans want to see them both, Punk and Lee, in a wrestling ring again in 2021, which is not in WWE. That alone would be evolutionary. So for that moment alone, I would love to see her in AEW. I would love to see her in the ring with me." So, I don't know what AJ Lee's situation is when it comes to pro wrestling. I know that she had some pretty serious injuries towards the end of her WWE run. I think she had a real bad spine injury, a back injury. She retired from pro wrestling, and look, I'm sure if she wanted to come back, she could, and AEW would be more than happy to have her. Just because Punk's come back, does that mean AJ Lee's come back? I don't know. It depends if she's got that itch as well. I think Britt Baker would probably be... The issue is that AEW has is they've got great talent, but in terms of stars that would be ready to be on AJ Lee's sort of level in terms of, popularity or sort of reach, it would be a Britt Baker. I mean, Britt Baker's one of the most over characters just in general in the company, right? But it would be a Britt Baker, a Thunder Rosa in terms of in-ring action. I mean, there are names on there like Serena Deeb could have a great match against AJ Lee, but the match would probably be Baker versus AJ Lee. Either way, I would love to see it, and I think a lot of people would also. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.